recording. So if you don't want to be recorded, it's a good time to drop out. So.
Okay, well, first of all, hi, my name is Caroline or Carolina. I am the director of the movie Trumphobia, What Both Sides Fear, and I just would like to thank everybody for joining in and participating at this empathy cafe, and also for watching the film if you had the chance before. Well, first of all, I'm so happy that everybody's here, and thank you for taking the time for an afternoon on Saturday to talk about politics. That's not something that a lot of people would do, and you're awesome for doing it. I hope everybody had the chance to watch the film before, but if for some reason you haven't, or you watched it on Friday and you just want to have the topic fresh, I'm going to show you the trailer, 2.5 minutes, just to start with the conversation a bit. Okay, is everybody ready? I'm just going to go ahead and share the screen. Okay. Are you ready? Not this. Let me know if the volume, it's okay.
I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
A spike in hate crimes across the country since Election Day.
Chuck Redding says he was followed home by someone after dropping off a friend, and he believes that person was targeting him all because of the stickers on the back of his car.
He said, our new president says that we can kill all you faggots now. Excuse me?
Trump is president, so you can kiss your visa goodbye, scumbag.
Donald Trump supporters have also been the victims.
You wanted Trump! You wanted Trump! Oh, yeah!
There's a lot of hate on the opposition side, coming from the liberals and the Democrats. They do attack us. I personally have been assaulted.
You don't like Trump? Whoa! Okay, I got it.
We're seeing these people step out into the public and spew their hateful rhetoric. Sometimes it's worse than rhetoric. Sometimes it's physical violence.
Trump versus Trump! No! Get out of this country, you communist scum! Not anymore! Don't touch me!
There's always been this tradition of sort of animosity between the left and the right in the United States, but I think the one thing that's really different now is the media environment.
So you're sitting for a night, I'm sorry for you. Feel sorry for me, that's fine.
I'm very sorry for you. Many progressives just think that conservatives are stupid or mean or evil and so on. They're not any more of any of those things than progressives are.
People are absolutely right to be cynical about the government that's been inflicted on everyday people. But the solution to that is not to descend into darkness and militarism and violence.
We need more empathy. This is getting serious. We need to solve this problem. I guess I have faith that if we make an effort, and I'm trying to start a movement to bring empathy into the political dialogue, we can find connections, and from that connection find solutions. It's going to take a while. These are challenging times.
Okay. Did everybody see the trailer, or did have good connection enough to hear? Perfect. Okay. I'm just gonna talk about a bit about the movie, and then we're gonna have a few minutes if you have any questions about the movie, but then we're gonna go straight to the empathy circles. And then at the end of everything, we can always come back to the film, or you can always, I'm gonna leave my contact information. You can always send me an email or get in contact, and we can talk about the movie more if you would like. So as I don't know if you can hear my accent, but I'm originally from Uruguay, South America, but I used to live in the United States for a few years. I was living in California when Trump got elected, and I was doing my thesis project for my master's degree in documentary filmmaking in LA, and I needed to pick a topic, and Trump got elected. And I really wanted to spend some time, if I was gonna do a thesis, on something that had a meaning and that it was gonna be impactful, that I just didn't want to waste all my time in a silly story that nobody's gonna even watch. I wanted to do something that had an impact possibly. So I realized that this was very important because Trump got elected, but I was living in California, and in California, everybody was surprised and shocked that he got elected. But clearly, this was not the case for half of the country. There was millions of people that voted for him, and I really wanted to understand why they voted for him and why there was so much conflict and polarization and hate and fear. And once I did the documentary, we traveled across the United States for a few years. We followed some characters, and we tried really hard to get as many perspectives as possible. I realized that after doing all that, my point of view, I had my own point of view, political views. I didn't change. I still believe the same, but my mind opened a lot. So I realized that there was hate and violence in both sides, that both sides were being biased, and we were receiving the media that we're interested in. We were not looking for other sources of media. So I saw that there was an issue there that nobody was attacking to. So because I'm a foreign person, I was able a bit, I guess I try humbly to try to do a more objective view of it. Because I couldn't vote in the United States. So I'm not American. So but I lived there, but I still had like a foreign point of view. And that way, I think I could be more objective. And we made this film. The whole point of it was to just show what both sides' concerns are and and at the end of the film, if you guys probably watched it, Edwin and his group were there in LA, and we did an empathy tent with both groups, and we brought them together. So the point of the film was to show the conflict, but at the same time, try to put a possible solution or path on the table of how can we move forward together as a country. Because this film, even though it's in the US, it can be like the message can be applied to any other country where there's political polarization. It could be England, it can be Australia, it can be Uruguay, because I feel like this type of like one side and the other one always fighting to each other and not moving together is an issue that happens all across the world. So I thought that by bringing them together and trying to really listen to one another, it's a good way to put ourselves in the other person's position. And I'm not expecting to make people like change their mind, but at least I know how they feel and I know why they feel that way. And if I know how they feel and what their beliefs are, and I try to understand, then there's a better chance that, first of all, I will not have any violence towards them. I will not get too angry at them and to the point to kill people or to hit people or just to shame them, because I can see a human underneath everything else. And I think that's the whole point of this session. It's like, how can we, as a society and groups, perhaps in your own family, you have family members that think differently than you, or with your friends and communities in your neighborhood, how can we as a society try to acknowledge that we do have different beliefs, but we need to work together to keep democracy alive? Otherwise, I come from Uruguay. I did not experience, because I'm young enough, but my parents and a lot of my friends did, because we did have a dictatorship in the 80s. And it was something that happened the same way. It's just two movements, the right and the left, and they were not getting together, and some people started protesting. They went too high, and then the government with the military had to intervene, and then dictatorship came. So the US is not on that level, but look what happened on the Capitol a few days ago. So clearly there is a lot of like conflict and tension, and people are mad and people are sad and scared. So, but we cannot, at least that's my humble opinion, we cannot let this win. We need to move forward and try to come with a possible solution. And I think that's when we come, and then Edwin is going to show you now how we're going to separate in groups and do these empathy circles. But I would like you to, if in those circles, with the people that are in those circles, you may know and you may not know them, if we can talk about this, how can we, at least as a starting point of the conversation, how can we breach the polarization and the political and social divide? And what can we do each person. And we're going to show you a few techniques. Edwin is going to show you that. How can we implement those techniques with our friends, with our family members, and with our communities, and see from there how can we at least try to reduce a bit that polarization. And okay, so I'm gonna leave Edwin to speak now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Carolina. Yeah, so it was a real pleasure to work with Carolina on this documentary. She brought us down to Los Angeles, where there was an impeach Trump rally and a counter demonstration. We set up the empathy tent there, and we did basically we did an empathy circle with the political left and the political right. And if you saw the film, you know kind of saw sort of the outcome. We did 6 pairs of mediation between 6 pairs of people, and each of the mediations ended in a hug between the participants on the left and right, as well as they agreed to take part in an empathy circle afterwards online. So what we want to do is, this is really the foundational practice for, I think, for bridging the political divide, is to get the parties to just listen to each other. It's really about just sort of a deep listening, letting people speak, you know, and fully be heard. You can express yourself as you wish and be heard to your satisfaction. And we do that in the empathy circle practice. And what we want to show is how the empathy circle works. We just give you a little bit, it's going to be a 6-minute little video clip, just to give you a bit of a primer on how it works. And then we'll actually go into the empathy circles and actually do it. So let me bring this up to share the video and share with sound. So these are the basic steps. And I also posted a link to a PDF in the chat there, and you can just click on that and that'll bring up a PDF. You can always have sort of at hand that kind of gives an overview of the process as well. So here we go for how to take part in a basic empathy circle. I'm Edwin Rudge, founding director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. Is that sound not working? Welcome you to this short presentation on. Just checking, is that sound working or was it really
not loud
low?
enough from my end, Edwin? It needs to be a little louder.
Oh, right, there we go. Thanks. Somehow the volume got set low. I'm Edwin Rudge, founding director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. I'd like to welcome you to this short presentation on how to take part in a basic empathy circle. So next, let's look at the step-by-step how to take part. An empathy circle starts with 2 to 7 participants. Here on the screen, we have 4 participants, which I find is an ideal number. There are 4 basic roles, and the roles rotate among the participants as the empathy circle unfolds. 1, the speaker, is the first person to speak. 2 is active listener who actively listens to the speaker. There's the silent listeners, they quietly observe and witness. And the facilitator who organizes, schedules, and hosts the circle. They also do the timekeeping, and they have some experience with the process and help keep participants in the process. However, everyone has the responsibility to hold the process and the practice. So to begin with, the facilitator will start the empathy circle. They welcome the participants. They lead introductions if the participants don't know each other. The facilitator invites participants to give short introductions, for example, their name, where they're from, and something personal about themselves. The facilitator then reviews the empathy circle process to remind everyone how it works. They announce the discussion topic, if there is one. Even if there is a topic, you can always talk about what is alive for you. That is what is on your mind in the moment. And 5, they set the speaker time limits, perhaps 5 minutes, for example. And the facilitator then asks who would like to start to be the first speaker. So at that point, the participant volunteers to be the first speaker. As speaker, you select who will be your active listener. and you can select anyone that you want. You speak about the topic given or whatever is alive for you. And so you'll speak a bit until you have maybe expressed an idea or two, and then you want to pause to give the active listener a chance to recap what they understand that you are saying and feeling. If you say too much, the listener may have difficulty in reflecting it. As the active listener, you are listening to the speaker to get an understanding of what they're saying and what is important to them. You are giving them your full attention as a supportive companion on their inner journey and exploration. When the speaker pauses, you recap your understanding of what they said and how they feel by reflecting the essence of that in your own words. You can summarize, paraphrase, or even say the speaker's words back to them. Even though you may have a strong impulse to respond with your own ideas, judgments, analysis, advice, and sympathy, or even questions, resist the impulse to do so because these common responses block the speaker from moving along their internal journey. You will be able to say whatever you want when it is your turn to be the speaker. If you don't reflect the understanding to the speaker's satisfaction, they can always say it again. Then as speaker, you check, do you feel understood to your satisfaction? If you do not feel understood, you can say it again, perhaps in different words. If you do feel understood, continue sharing. Again, after speaking a bit, pause to give your active listener a chance to recap their understanding of what you said. As the active listener, you again share your understanding of what the speaker said and meant. The cycle of speaking and reflecting continues until you, as the speaker, do not have anything else you'd like to say, or until you get a signal from the timekeeper. If you get a signal from the timekeeper, then finish up what you're saying in a sentence or two. After you get a final reflection, you can end your turn by saying something like, "I feel fully heard," or something like that to indicate you are done with your speaking turn. At that point, the roles then rotate. The active listener becomes the speaker. The person they select becomes the new active listener. For everyone having equal time, it is good to select someone that hasn't spoken lately, but it is your choice. The others in the circle become the silent listeners. This process of taking turns in speaking and active listening continues for whatever time is allotted for the empathy circle. And this was just a very short introduction. The best way to learn the practice is taking part and doing it. There is more in-depth material on taking part in an empathy circle and facilitating one at empathycircle.com. Thank you for listening. Okay, so those are the basic instructions, and we're going to divide into 7 breakout rooms, and there'll be a person that's a facilitator in each one, just that they sort of hold the process. And some groups will be 5 people, some 4. And I just put in there the instructions. So when you get into the room, just say your name and location, just go around, hear from everyone. We'll be doing 4-minute turns, maybe in the larger groups. And if you feel, just do 5-minute turns in the groups of 4. And we have the topic of how might we bridge the political and social divides, or talk about whatever's alive for you, just if there's anything you really have energy that you want to talk about. And
while Edwin separates us in groups, if anybody who watched the film has any questions, this is the time. You can raise your hand, and I will just say your name, and you can unmute yourself. Does anybody watch the film yesterday and has a question? Let me know. Let me see all the groups. We have 33 people here, so I'm trying to go for each group. Okay, no questions. Okay, great.
Right. Well, people will talk it out in the breakout rooms. And some breakout rooms have 2 facilitators, so you have to decide who's going to facilitate. And we're going to go for an hour and 15 minutes, so a quarter till the end. We're going to come back to the full group, and we'll just have some time for questions and answers at that point. So I think we're ready to go into the groups. Hope you're all enjoying. And oh, somebody just left. Oh, just 1 second. Somebody saw these rooms. I mean, all these, move somebody else into that room. A little bit of juggling here. So here we go. And if you have ECF, you're the facilitator.
He will be the moderator.
Hey, there should be one more person here, but hey, hi. Oh, great to see you.
Nice to see you again.
Just bring up I'm doing a little bit of the technical stuff here too. Someone had trouble joining. Maybe they'll still join, kind of technical issues.
We're supposed to be 4 here.
Yeah, it's 4 or 5. So I had one more. So, okay. Oh, there we go.
Here.
Oh, great. Okay. So with, we can just get started. I'll keep, does anybody want to keep time? Anybody have a watch? We'll do 4-minute turns to begin with.
I'll keep time.
Okay,
I'll
great.
just bring it up on my phone.
Yeah, so 4-minute turns to begin with. We can maybe expand it later. So we can just get started. If someone would like to speak to me, I'll model the listening, and you got talk about.
We can start. We can, and so the rest know how this is going to turn out. Then, do you want to do that, Edwin?
Oh, we want to introduce each other. Name is Edwin Rudge from San Francisco Bay Area. Carolina, quick just name, location.
I already did, but I'm Carolina. I'm the director, and I am from Uruguay.
And Lala.
Hi, everyone. I am Lala Liu, currently in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Andy.
Hi, I'm Andy, and I'm in North London, UK.
What time is it then?
It's late. It's 10 o'clock here in the evening.
Okay. Thanks for
joining.
Nice.
Must be later than 10 now. It's,
well, thanks for
10.
hanging in there. Winona, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I'm Winona Verketier. I'm in San Jose, California.
Local
awesome.
To me here, Bay Area. Okay, so we can just get started. We'll have 4-minute turns. If someone would like to speak to me, our topic was how might we bridge this political and social polarization, or just anything that's alive for you. You have 4 minutes, and you can speak to me, and I'll kind of reflect what I'm hearing, just to sort of model it.
I just want to ask a quick question. Did all of you watch the film, or has any one of you has not watched the film? Winona, did you watch it?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Okay, but you watched the trailer right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've actually watched the introduction to the Empathy Circle video before also, so I'm trying to get more familiar with the process. It's just really interesting.
Okay, and has Lala or Andy participated in an Empathy Circle before?
Let's just get started. Just if you want to speak, Carolina, I'll reflect back. So what I'm hearing, Carolina, is you really want to hear if people have if they've taken part in the video, in watching the video. You'd like to know just how much background they have with the different processes. Is that right?
Yes, that's what I said. So let me start talking. I think we have to pick one person. I think that's the whole point.
If you speak to me, I'll model it to begin with.
Oh, okay. Well, Edwin. Well, the thing is, perhaps somebody else can start because we already know it. Okay, time started. Okay. So, Edwin, thanks for joining. Well, basically, you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and you have been doing this for a while with different people. It's not only about politics, it's also sometimes you bring people together that have different religion or different perspective in the family, some family issues, and they think differently. And you use this technique to try to solve their conflicts. But I was wondering if you can tell me, how do you think this could actually be applied to politicians not
Okay,
just.
so what I'm hearing you say, Carolina, is that I work with this process and we do it with families and in different environments. And you're really wondering, how do I think we can do this with politicians? So you just have some curiosity about that.
Yes,
Is there
that's
more?
correct. Well, that's my question for you. Like,
Okay.
I want to know more about that. How can we apply this to politicians? I ask this because I think this is not as easy as it seems, even with one-on-one person, like with your family or a friend or a stranger you met at a march that thinks, like if you're a Trump supporter and you meet a Trump opponent, it's difficult to apply this in that type of circumstance. And so I think with politicians is even harder. Like we saw on the debate between Trump and Biden, they couldn't even talk. Like it wasn't not even a normal debate. There was no debate. Everybody was like screaming and like saying their opinion, but not really growing the
Okay,
conversation.
I'm going to reflect that back. So what I'm hearing is you see this as a sort of a difficult process, especially like in a conflict situation. And you're kind of like wondering, how do you kind of apply it with politicians? You're kind of using the debate as sort of an example of kind of dysfunctional communication. Maybe you're kind of like wondering, could an empathy circle be used there?
Yeah, and I wonder because who will be the moderator? Like I know in a debate, there's a moderator clearly like as that option, and it's usually a journalist that's supposed to be objective and all that. But it's kind of hard to be the moderator here and with politicians, I think, especially if they are in power and like if it's presidents. So I just want to know your opinion on that.
Yeah, so you're really wondering about my opinion, like if we had the two presidential candidates run, who would moderate that and how would that kind of work? So you just have some curiosity and really wonder what I think about that.
Yes.
Do you feel fully heard?
Yeah, I feel fully heard.
Okay, so when you're done speaking, you don't have anything else to say, just say, I feel fully heard, then it's the listener's turn to choose someone. And can I speak to you, Lala? Would you be willing to listen?
All right, let me just get started with the new timer.
How many minutes did I use, Lala?
3 minutes.
Okay, great.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Started.
Great. So I think this could easily be used for presidential debates. The empathic listening that we're doing here. You have the candidates and then a facilitator, and they just do exactly what we're doing. You have turn taking, and I think it's totally doable.
So you believe that this format can be applied in different situations, and it's also applicable even to a presidential debate where a facilitator is there to facilitate the dialogue.
Yeah, and I think it's easier if you have some practice having done it before. It's easier than Carolina sort of imagines, that you sort of create, it's sort of this listening, it becomes sort of a way of being. So when people are really in conflict and you have the skills, you can just hear them and sort of reflect back what you're hearing. So I think it's easier than Carolina is thinking.
So I hear what you're saying is that deep listening is a skill that can be practiced, and the more you practice, the more natural it becomes to you and more of a listener you can become in a dialogue.
Exactly. And we've done this before with candidates running for the California State Assembly. There were 11 candidates running, and we worked with some students at UC Berkeley, and we had the 11 candidates come to this sort of like a town hall, and we did 2 empathy circles with 6 candidates, myself and 6 candidates, and we did an empathy circle with them. And most of them were actually pretty good. Like, you're very good at listening. You're doing an excellent job of listening. And they were pretty good at it too, I thought.
So based on your previous experience working with politicians and bringing them into a university setting, interacting with students in the empathy circle format, you thought it worked well for them.
Yeah,
and they were able to follow the format.
And another project we have is my congressman, Mark DeSaulnier, has agreed to do an empathy circle with Republicans. He's a Democrat, so he has agreed. He said he would do it in January. He committed to it. I'm going to hold him accountable to do it. And yeah, so I hope that we can model it between the politicians to really sort of address what Carolina is, concerns are.
Wow. So your congressman is ready to engage in an empathy circle type of dialogue with the his Republican opponents, but you believe that he will be able to have a dialogue through the practice of empathy circle and address some of the concerns that Carolina had about not being able to have a good debate.
Right. So I have a lot of hope. So I feel fully heard. Yes, that's
okay.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, we have an entire minute left, so it was about 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Okay, I will get started. And Winona, would you be my listener?
I will do my best, yes.
Thank you. All right, let me get started. So I want to answer the topic question, which is how might we bridge political and social divides, or talk whatever is alive for me. Sure. Sorry, I need a moment to think about this. I had this question. Why would people vote for politicians who are bad? And through a lot of conversations with my friends, my husband, people who are close to me, I realized that was a very badly phrased question. My question was really, do people truly understand who they're supporting? Do they truly understand their own values, the values of the politicians that they support, as well as if the policies these politicians support truly support the needs and wants of their constituents?
Okay, so you said a lot, but that it was on topic. And so what I hear you saying is that you had a really like on topic, a core question about how people could support a politician who was a bad politician or bad person. Is what I'm hearing is somebody who doesn't do what the job entails, is what I imagine from when you say a bad politician. But it's interesting, you're saying also that you had, through a lot of conversations with various people that are close to you, you were able to explore the question and you realized it was kind of like a poorly phrased question that you had, that there was a different way to look at it. And so by taking a different perspective, you could examine it more closely by wondering more specifically whether the people who are supporting these bad politicians actually share the same values or even understand the values that they have.
Yes, yes, yeah. And one thing I found difficult to watch in the news or in social media posts when people engage in arguments.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay. When people engage in arguments and debates talking about, I think Trump is terrible, or I think this person is terrible, or that person is terrible, they don't care about these values. They are kind of giving them names and rewriting the narrative to focus on the person. By doing that, they're not really focusing on their own needs and what drives those needs. You know, is it the value that they adopted through their prior experiences, family, growing up, things that were mentioned, I believe, in the beginning of Carolina's documentary, you know, what shapes our values and how that translates to their desires and needs, and how does that translate to their support of different policies and different structures in government.
So I think if I can reflect back, what I'm hearing you say is that people, well, what it sounds like you're saying is that when people are thinking about these politicians, they're actually like labeling them as terrible, and basically judging them. in a way that then separates them, and they're less, and also targeting the person as opposed to really considering what the values are.
That was my time. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Oh, great. Thank you. So I guess now it's my turn.
You choose who to speak to, maybe Andy, who hasn't spoken yet.
I'll speak to you, Andy. Is that work? Okay. So on topic, I feel like it's helpful. I want to just express a little bit of my background and experience, and that's sort of like on topic, is that I have 3 kids. They're 10, 12, and 15. And it's really important to me to get them exposed to different points of view and to be understanding, and also to know what it's to practice being active politically. And so on that topic, I actually took them to the Bernie Sanders rally that was in San Jose last February, I believe. And so that was a really neat experience.
Great. So yeah, your background is, you say that you have 3 kids, 10, 12, 15-year-olds, and you really love to get them exposed to different points of view politically. You'd love them to be active politically as well. So you took them along. Sorry, I can't remember if it was all of, did you take them all along to a Bernie Sanders rally?
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes. And just getting them exposed to thinking for themselves also is really important to me. And it just, and especially to not fall into that trap of polarizing and labeling people, but instead it's just so important to have the skills to be able to connect with people, find out what the human side of them is, and then have a platform, a shared platform on which, of trust, basically. And it seems like that is what's missing. Something happened in our political realm that kind of fell out. The bottom fell out on that one.
Yeah, so you'd like them to be able to think for themselves and not fall into this sort of polarized way of seeing things that is dehumanizing, and you'd like them to develop these skills that enable them to connect with other people as humans, and that you'd like them to participate in building this platform of trust that you feel has just fallen out of the bottom of politics lately.
Yeah, it is interesting to, I'm just going to step back. It's just interesting to hear back this kind of the active listening. So I appreciate it. I guess in terms of the getting on the topic is how do I think politicians could more actively do that themselves? It does seem like it needs some kind of push and some kind of organized structure, which is what this seems to provide, and also some there's a sense of vulnerability that comes from sharing and having somebody actually pay attention and listen. And I think that's not a place that people really commonly want to go, especially when they're in politics. But I listened to some of the TED Talks from Brené Brown, and it talks about that it's just necessary.
So yeah, you're wondering about how can politicians do that actively? How can this culture be created? And you feel that it needs a bit of a push. There needs to be some kind of organized structures for that. And at the time, yeah, that you feel vulnerability is necessary, and that Brené Brown has been demonstrating that. So
thank you. I feel very hurt.
Thank you.
And it's your choice. It's your turn.
Okay, so I will nominate you, Carolina.
Okay.
So Yeah. So I kind of weave the topic and sort of very recent experience for me this evening in the UK here. I'm with my partner's family, and her father just went into hospital today. And he has long-term sickness, but he had to go into hospital today. And so we had the paramedics come round, and he got taken in an ambulance. And but the doctors have been doing really well, and it just made me feel so grateful for what we have here in the UK, the National Health Service. I'll pause there.
Okay. First of all, I'm sorry about the family member. You said that there's a family member in your family that is the father of your partner.
My wife, yes.
Yeah, and he's been sick for a while, but today he had to be hospitalized, and the doctors were great, but it made you think that you were lucky to be in England and have that the medical system that works there. I'm guessing you're comparing to the US system, or I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what you said.
I feel heard, and I'm gonna come on to that now, which is that it's interesting just to see how polarization is different in different countries, because like in the left and right in the US, I see this great polarization around things like Obamacare, and but like in the UK, we've had this health service for such a long time that it became like a national institution that neither the left or the right could ever. The right tries to privatize a little bit, but it's very difficult actually, because it's become so kind of loved as an institution. So it just makes me reflect that what we see as polarization is not something so fixed, and that these lines can be much more blurry, and that we can there's much more of a spectrum of difference that in reality, and that polarization is something that's kind of fabricated somehow, I feel, by systems.
Okay, let me reflect on that.
Yeah.
You were indeed comparing the two systems, saying, for example, in the US, the polarization it's big on terms of healthcare between privatizing or universal healthcare. But in the UK, it's already an institution that it's so normal that nobody even questions, no matter what size you are. It's something that it's there, and that's it. Nobody's gonna change that. So you're thinking that the term polarization, even it could be a society construction, or like something, a concept that it was built to define something that it's not really something that you can fix, or like something that it's very definite. So it's hard to make a definition of it, and it has a lot of blurry and gray lines in that definition of like what is being polarized in terms of this. Sorry if my English is not
No,
the
that's
best.
good. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's like it feels that there's actually so much more complexity in our values, in the way we see the world, in our perspectives, and that somehow these kind of binary systems, Republican, Democrat, or even in the UK where we had Brexit and the Remainers and the Leavers, it's actually, that's not the way things are in reality. We're very complex, and there's so many shades of gray, and like, so I think we need to develop systems that allow complexity a lot more.
Okay. Was that time? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just reflect a bit. You were just saying that we need to build some sort of better system to try to define this concept better and try to solve it. Because if it's just too abstract, it's kind of hard to try to fix it, I guess.
Yeah, to allow complexity. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you. Are you fully heard?
Yes, I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay. So it's my turn again, and I'm gonna pick Winona. just to keep talking to what you were saying. I guess I have comments from all of you, but I'm just gonna pick Wanana. Or perhaps you can reflect on my comments for everybody else. So I'm just gonna try to do that. So Wanana, I'm gonna reflect first on Lala's comments. Like, I was also intrigued when you said, what makes a bad politician? Like, why people vote for a bad person or politician? Is that what Lala said? And I was intrigued by that question because I don't think people see them as bad or good, or sometimes they do. And what I'm trying to say is that people don't realize what is good or bad, what makes a bad person or a good person. Perhaps you do some stuff or you say some things that makes you look bigot or racist or stupid or ignorant. And if all those things make you a bad person, or is it something, an action, something that they made, either a politician or a person, they committed a crime or they did something horrible? Is that what makes them bad? Because it's kind of hard to decide who's good or bad. Wanana?
Okay. So I hear that you're reflecting on the question that Lala put out there, and that was, you were intrigued by the terminology. It sounds like that calling, if you judge, well, basically perceiving a politician as a bad politician. And I hear that you're curious about where that might stem from, and what you're wondering, is it from their behavior or like, whether they're bigoted, do things that are bigoted or racist or that, or if it's on the more, it sounds to me like you're wondering, is it include, or is it rather what if their actions are actually criminal actions and they're causing like policy changes that hurt people, and you're wondering whether people perceive that, like, from different perspectives. Do they evaluate those actions as bad or good differently? Is what it sounds like you're wondering.
Yeah, and then that's why I feel like it's very hard to just assess and evaluate who's bad or good, because we can have our own worldviews, moral worldviews of what it is right and what it is wrong. So when you ask the question, why would they vote for this person, that I think it's bad, it's because according to their moral worldviews, it's not. They don't see it that way. So what I'm trying to say, Lala, is I don't think all the people just vote for the bad person. It's just that they don't consider that person bad according to their beliefs. And that's, if you want to just reflect on that one, Anna, I can keep going to where you're.
It sounds like, so you're observing, or if you're in your observation and working with people and your experience, that is that the people who are electing people that might in some cases seem bad, actually those actions that brought a lot of many people to that conclusion are not even are irrelevant to the people who are voting for them, because there's a whole other set of values and characteristics that are in their eyes good.
Yes, correct. And then to you, Wanana, when you were saying that you bring your kids to their debates or rallies and as a way to try to reduce the polarization, I think it's great. I was just going to say that besides talking like this and having an open dialogue with somebody that you may know he thinks differently than you, teaching your kids from the start point to open their minds and to just try to be trying to talk to the other person that thinks different, I think that's vital.
Okay, thank you. And so I hear what you're saying is that you do see that raising kids from the beginning to be able to have dialogue with other people with an open mind is really important.
Yes, thank you. I feel heard.
Great. Okay. Do I talk again then?
Yes, whoever you'd like, choose whoever you'd like to speak to.
Okay. I guess I talked to Lala. when you were bringing up your questions and having mentioning that you were talking to various people, it made me curious how political are the people in your world, and your do they get involved, or are they more like are they avid readers and followers of news? It made me curious if you had, because in my experience, most people that I'm familiar with and I talk with are pretty similar in political views as I am, and I just don't have an opportunity to engage with people who think a lot differently. So then that made me curious if what kind of world you might live in. This is such a fascinating process to get insight into all your different backgrounds and perspectives. So I'll pause.
Winona, what I hear is that my reflection piqued your interest in terms of how people come to understand different perspectives, and how do they even get in touch with people and have conversations with people with different perspectives. So you wanted to know if I spoke to people who had very different political views than mine, because in your personal experience, you tend to have conversations with people who have similar views as you.
Yes. That is, yeah. Okay. And I guess another piece of this sort of my wanting to get involved and have more engagement with various different people. I joined my work. I work for NASA, actually, and with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, they actually have included as an agency inclusion as one of their, it's like the fifth main value now. And as such, at my center, they started having it's like in diversity and inclusion dialogues. And so I joined that group, and it's that has a facilitator. It's different than this, but I'm wanting to take this sort of idea to them and see what they think of that also. So that's why, but in that, we definitely, it's completely new to talk to people from work about like how you feel, and how do you talk to somebody when you microwave fish in the workroom, and how do you, but what if they bring something that's like a cultural dish, but it has some kind of, how do you talk about these things? And so I find it's been really meaningful. Sorry if I talk too much.
Try my best. Please correct me if I am, what I'm reflecting is not what you're trying to express. What I hear is that you're drawn to the empathy circle and this type of dialogue format because of the changes you're experiencing at workplace and the general experience you have in your lives because of the events that has been going on in the recent month or years. At work, you also noticed that they are introducing topics around surrounding diversity and inclusion, trying to include additional values to represent the changing values of the society. So you would like to better navigate these changes and conversations by bringing the techniques and structure of this type of dialogue to your workplace in hopes to facilitate dialogue and interactions with your colleague with regards to the changes, cultural and value changes that's happening in your organization.
I feel very heard. That was even better than when I said it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna put my clock on. Andy, would you like to be my listener for the next 4 minutes?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, I'll start. So I actually would like to expand my thoughts based on what you said earlier, Andy. Our societies are very complex, and as we try to live our lives, trying to find our positions in the world and shine in our different ways, we're also being tugged into, this very complex structure, and we have to navigate through it with our values or with our shifting values. I find it difficult, or one of the questions that's been bugging me for a really long time is, how do we create a safe space for nuanced conversations and allow people to express their needs and wants without shame, what they think and believe, and really allow them to express themselves so that they can really understand the source of their fear. So a space for nuanced conversations where they not only can express themselves, but also allow for introspection.
So, yeah, kind of expanding on what I was saying around complexity and how we get tugged into these complex structures. You're wondering how we can actually create safe spaces where people are able to have nuanced opinions and express their feelings, their ideas without shame, and how, yeah, they can express themselves without feeling afraid, without falling into fear. Yeah, and there was something else about it. Yeah, is that
Yeah.
just it? Yeah.
I think you captured most of what I was trying to say, and it was difficult for me to phrase it very concisely. So I'm learning to be a better speaker as well in this type of dialogue format. This is definitely helping me to practice. The last point I was trying to make is by expressing feelings, needs, and wants without the fear of judgment or shame, it allows us to introspect, to really look into ourselves and find the source of our fear and what is at the core of our own values. But because we're so quick at judging others by what they try to express, we stop them from being able to look at their own needs and wants and really understand what their values are. So by judging others, we're taking away the possibility for them to change their opinions, to grow. And that's something I've been thinking for a little bit. Are we doing them a disservice? Are we doing the people that we're trying to argue with a disservice from discovering their version of truth?
Yeah, so what you were expressing was that there's this, you feel it's important for people to be able to express their feelings and their needs without judgment, so that they can introspect and look at the sources of fear and kind of come to understand themselves so that they can actually change. And that if we don't give them that space, then we're doing a disservice to them.
Yes, I feel fully heard.
Okay, oh yes, it's me now. So Edwin.
Listening.
Can I? Yeah. So well, I guess I'm feeling whatever happens, I think there's a need for courage now, because it feels like things are getting pretty bad, and it feels like things are getting unstable. for me, from my point of view, the most dangerous thing that's going on right now, you know, a lot of people are fearful about the conspiracy theories, or they're fearful about the vaccines, or they're fearful of the virus. But for me, I think I'm most afraid of the polarization and the fracturing of society.
So you're just expressing some fears that you have, and that things are getting worse, that there's, you know, a lot of different things to worry about, the vaccines, the conspiracy theories, and you're really concerned about the fracturing, so the polarization and fracturing. And there's something about that that needs some courage. I'm hearing there's a need for courage in that space.
Yeah. So I think it's like, well, I guess it's for our people, maybe people like us who are called to do something in this space. I just feel it in myself, like a kind of a need to step up, and not just be an observer of all this. So I personally, I work a little bit in this field, but I feel like there's something that's not quite enough. There's another level that I need to go to somehow.
Mm-hmm. So you're just seeing sort of this in society, the fear and all the problems, and you feel like it takes courage to address that. And you personally need to maybe take another step to start really engaging to address it in some way. Sounds like maybe you're searching what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I work with these so I work a little in field of facilitation and participatory democracy, and but somehow I feel like I need to be a bit more bold and try to instigate some projects that are even more, that try to bring people with very divergent perspectives together somehow to work on issues, because that feels like where it's the most needed right now. What's most needed.
So you're already working in the field of participatory democracy, but it seems like there's something more that's needed. You want to kind of step up your game, and you know, something bolder, more courage, take it to the next level to bring people who are really polarized together.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know how to expand on that more. It feels like that's where I've got to right now. I think it's kind of, this topic just brings up a personal need or desire to go further.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a real desire, something you want to take sort of this next step. Sounds like you're not quite sure yet, like what it is, but you're just sort of sitting there looking, maybe even looking for some new insight or something to take a step.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I feel really heard. I don't know if I need more time.
No, you just say you're fully heard. And
I'm fully heard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then I guess Lala, speak to you. A couple of things. First is what Andy was saying. What I want to do is take the empathy tent and this work that we're doing, take it to the White House, set up in front of the White House, and demand that Biden take part in an empathy circle, and also go over to the Capitol steps and sort of demand the same thing. We're here. We're not leaving until you parties have empathy circles with each other. And it's something Andy could do at the parliament too. You know, we're not leaving here until the parliamentary members have empathy circles.
I hear that you think it would be by taking the empathy circle to the leaders of our nations, it would make a better or stronger impact. So you demand that, you know, Biden or people from the White House or leaders of the US should partake in empathy circle.
Yeah, we need an assertive empathy, not a wimpy empathy. The wimpy empathy, oh, please, can you please do an empathy circle? It's like we need to God damn it, you need to do an empathy circle. We're going to sit here until you use nonviolent direct action or whatever until the politicians, actually do it, make a real issue of it. So that's one thing.
You recognize that there is a real urgency that people need to learn how to be empathetic and how to have good conversations, dialogues with empathy. So people should no longer be passive and see empathy as something soft, but it's a real key to address a lot of issues.
And to be assertive, to demand that like politicians, take part. So be more assertive in that way, to kind of step it up like Andy's talking about. Yeah.
So you believe our leaders need to use empathy as a tool or an instrument and step up, and
we as activists need to be empathy activists, step up our, pushing for it, I think is what yeah.
Okay, so we need to demand our leaders to use empathy circles or empathy to improve their ability to converse with people.
Yeah, and the other was, I really enjoyed what you were saying about we need to give people space, to and not judge, and all the thing. And typically, like in these political polarizations, there's judgment, there's analysis, you're detaching, you're in competition for attention. And what the empathy circle does is, while I'm speaking now, I've got the floor and you're listening. So you're creating this sort of this empathic space for me to speak into. And I think that's really what it's the dynamic that you're talking about, is a space for the speaker to be heard and for them to sort of grow. So
you believe the empathy circle creates this safe space that allows a speaker to effectively express what they're trying to say, and the listener to fully take in what the other side is trying to express or address. And this space is going to enhance honesty and the ability to fully understand each other.
Right. And I don't know how much time I have, but there's also an aspect that, I've had like criticism from the political right, about the empathy tent, and they do all kinds of name calling. And instead of, instead of saying, oh, you hurt my feelings, I feel so bad, you hurt my feelings, I say, oh, I just reflect back what they're saying and say, I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me more. I hear you really think I'm an asshole and what I'm doing is totally stupid. Tell me more. So the empathy actually reduces, it kind of transforms pain, it's the pain of disconnection. It creates a connection, actually. So I just see this as a really positive, step. Yeah.
So you see empathy circle or empathetic dialogue as a way to reduce disconnection and also allow people who are very strongly opinionated to, I actually don't fully understand what the last point you were expressing.
Somebody name calls you, they're sort of attacking you, you can just empathize with their attack, and it kind of reduces the pain and it builds connection. It transforms the attack into connection. Does that make sense?
I think I can replicate what you just said,
okay,
but I don't fully understand.
Okay, that's fine.
So you said by accepting another person's attack, it transforms the dynamic and it builds connection instead of further driving someone away from you.
Right. Accepting it with empathy specifically. Yeah.
Accepting with empathy specifically.
Yeah. I feel heard. Yeah, I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to put my timer on. Carolina, would you be my listener?
Let me put some headphones first because I'm hearing some noise.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear.
Oh, perfect. All right, let me get started. Name calling is very common. I agree with Edwin. I see and hear a lot of name calling when it comes to disagreeing with another person. By boxing other people into a specific category, by naming them something, we're also restricting our ability to see beyond that. So I don't think it's a very effective tool when it comes to having an empathetic dialogue.
Okay, you are agreeing with Edwin that there's a lot of name calling nowadays, and that doing that or basing yourself on stereotypes, it doesn't allow people to actually connect, and it's even worse. Did you say that, or did I explain it?
Yes, that actually is what I was trying to express. So thank you for listening to me. It takes away the other person's individuality. It stops me personally from trying to understand who they are for who they actually are, instead of categorizing them or putting them into a group of people that I like or I dislike. And to answer Winona's question earlier, all my friends are extremely liberal. Some of them call themselves Bernie Bros. And, they call themselves names, and I find it very interesting. But when I do talk to them, I hear a lot of name calling and a lot of very judgy comments, passing very judgmental comments on how the other side should act or why they're wrong. So I hear a lot of that type of comments, and I think I don't disagree with their sentiment, but I disagree with their action.
Okay, you were talking about what Winona was talking before, and you were mentioning that you have a lot of liberal friends, and you agree with what they think or what their beliefs are, but you see them that they are acting in a way that you disagree, because they're being judgy and they're name calling other people. And I'm guessing you feel a little bit disappointed that you agree with their values, but you don't agree with on how they act with other people. And in a way, perhaps they're putting themselves in the same position as the other side, because by name calling other ones, you are doing what they're doing wrong, the other side, I guess.
Yes. So I guess to elaborate a little bit more, I share the same beliefs with them, we hold similar values, because we imagine society, or the best version of a society that we see, by applying our intrinsic values to it. So just to give you an example, I believe everyone should have universal healthcare and free education. These are the fundamental rights of people. But I am willing to sit down and listen to someone who says, I don't think these things should be free, because I want to understand why they don't think these things should be human rights, basic human rights.
Okay. You took the example of universal healthcare and free education. You agree with the values of what your friends, I get liberal friends, have. But you also think that you're willing to talk to somebody that doesn't believe that universal healthcare should be free or education should be free, because you want to understand those people. And try to get to a common point. I get to combine the two ideas and see what can we do. And I'm guessing you think that your liberal friends are not doing that. They just think universal healthcare should be free, education should be free, and they're not willing to accept otherwise. Is that correct?
I don't know if they are unwilling to accept otherwise, or perhaps it was just me trying to understand what values and principles that drives the other side to think free education, free healthcare should not be available to everybody. Perhaps it's because they believe strong work ethic will allow you to be successful, and establish yourself, establish wealth enough that you can provide your children and your family with good healthcare and good education. So that's what I was trying to express. What drives those type of opinions?
You were trying to express what drives the other side of people's opinions, and you were giving an example as perhaps they don't think universal healthcare should be free because they believe more in the value of hard work and becoming successful and being able to pay for your own healthcare or your family members because that's a possibility in your country. Is that what you said?
Yeah, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay. I guess I will talk to Edwin this time, because I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here, just for the sake
Okay,
of
so you want to speak to me because you want to play devil's advocate.
just for the sake of this meeting. So I'm just gonna talk. I'm gonna put myself in a different position, and I'm gonna talk as that position because it's not entirely what I think. It's just it's something that comes to my mind right now.
So you want to do a bit of role play here and put yourself in somebody else's position. It might not be your position, but
yes,
it's just what will come to your mind.
And
yeah.
I really appreciate this technique, and that's why I'm here, right? But sometimes it could get to a point people can get frustrated or anxious because it's not how we normally speak, right? It's not how we normally have a conversation. So we some people, like, we want to use this technique. For example, I'm calling this technique, but let's just say this method, and we want to implement it with politicians or with people, go to the White House and all that. But I feel like it's a bit naive in a way. It's not realistic because, and I feel scared or afraid of that because what I'm trying to say is that if we just come along with this method and we try to implement with them and just pretend that everything is going to work fine, it's a bit naive from our side because reality shows that this is not how normal conversations work.
So you see the empathy circle is not a normal conversation, and you feel that it might be a bit naive, or you just think it won't really work. And so you have some concerns that it could really work. And in fact, you're thinking it won't work because it's not how things work.
No, I didn't say it for a fact that it's not going to work. I'm just concerned by the way, the structure of how it works, it might not work. Because since people get a little bit anxious and like, I want to speak my mind, or somebody else said something and I want to answer that person. I love the part where I'm reflecting, but it slows things down a lot, right? I think we can all agree that the reflecting part slows down the conversation. And since we're all about fast, right? Everything is up right now, everything is about instant. Everything is a Twitter, everything is just fast. And so people are getting into that mode, right? And so when we want to apply this method, it might feel like instead of helping to build the conversation, it could be detrimental in a way, because you can get even more frustrated with the other person, right? Because it's like you need to work with yourself, right? You need to like, oh, damn, I have to slow down and wait for my turn, and I'm going to speak to what I'm going to say. But that, in that process, during that moment within my mind, I perhaps I stopped listening to you, because now I'm focusing on calming myself down of not answering to you and wait for my turn. but I'm not even listening to you right now because I'm dying on my chair to just say, damn, you're wrong. This is what I'm thinking, right?
Mhm. Yeah, so it's like you have a real concern that there's people who are just dying to be heard, and that they're like feeling this is really slowing the conversation down. People are kind of reflecting, and they're just kind of just feeling really frustrated, like I need to be heard, I need to be heard. And so they will start sort of detaching from really listening anymore. And so you just kind of think that that might be a problem that arises. And that's why this might not work. You're not saying it won't work, it's just it might not work.
Yes, that's what I was saying. And now I'm back to my person. And like, how can we try not forgetting this technique and this method, but how can we try to, because they're different, circumstances are different, right? Here we can apply them because all of us were here because we want to do that. We want to experience this. But when you're trying or inviting strangers to come to the conversation, and this is just the first experience for them, how can we try to convince them that this is a good way instead of just making them feel, oh, this is a waste of time?
Mm-hmm. So you're really wondering, how do we kind of engage people to take part in this, especially if they haven't done it before? Like, what will kind of engage them, especially if they haven't done it before, and instead of thinking it's like a waste of time. So you're just sitting with that question. Sounds like you'd like us all to sort of think about it. Feel heard?
And I think it's my time, right?
Yeah, I heard the beeper too. Okay, speak to Andy.
Okay.
Yeah, I figure if we can get the politicians, if Trump and Biden would have done an empathy circle, that really would have spread the practice. It's like it would, like people would say, oh wow, they're doing it. Maybe Oprah would do it, and that would get several million people. So it's a work. We're doing cultural shift, and it's just not like cultural shift just happens. It takes kind of work.
So yeah, you feel that a really good way to spread it would be through politicians getting Biden and Trump together to do empathy circle, and then that can spread to shows like Oprah, and that then a cultural transformation could start to take place.
And there's films like Carolina did the film. It's like, that is such a beautiful, it's an amazing film about showing the power of this. Here's people, beating it on the other side of the street at the police station. They were beating each other up, screaming and yelling with the row of police. On the other side, they were giving each other hugs after, half an hour. So we need more films. Carolina, you got to do this full time.
So you're seeing that films are an amazing way to spread this, and Carolina's film has been a great example of that, showing people protesting, being really angry and violent on one side of the street, and then on the other with an empathy tent and hugging each other, and that is just a great way to demonstrate the power of this.
Yeah, and one way we do mediation, right? When people are in high conflict, they're really super stressed, like Carolina's mentioning. They're like ready to murder each other. And before we bring them together, we do a pre-circle, which is you bring them in and we just listen to them for half an hour or an hour, say, tell me what's up for you. And you get a full 60 minutes empathy bath. From the facilitator. They don't say anything. So like, I hear you say this, I hear you say that. And so the person feels really heard, and then the stress level goes down. It's like, oh, I feel kind of heard. My stress level is way lower. And then you bring them together, right? Then you do that to everybody. You bring them together, and their stress level is lower.
Mm-hmm. So there's this a process of mediation which could happen is like bringing them into the pre-circle where they get to be listened to, and that they can speak for like 30 minutes and just unload everything that they have to say and feel really heard, and that by having all the sides have that happen to them, it unloads their stress.
Mm-hmm.
and then once that stress is gone and they feel really hurt, then they can start to enter into dialogue through mediation. And,
Yeah, because that stress and that impatience, it's really about not feeling heard, right? It's like, hey, once you feel heard, it's like, oh, sometimes people go into the empathy circle and they do it for quite a while. It's like, I don't have anything else to say. Everything I've said is kind of like heard. They're all like calm and kind of floaty, kind of in a floaty space.
So yeah, often people come with a lot of stress and impatience. They really want to stay their stuff, and they, but when they've been really hurt, they get to this space where it feels all floaty, and they're like, they feel good, and they feel, oh, I've nothing more to say.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of things. If we can bring these practices into the schools, it could already start in kindergarten, first grade. I mean, that would be super powerful. If I would have learned this at that age, it would have been a tool, practice, a mindset I could have used for my whole life. And, you know, this is only just the beginning. This is the first sort of step. It has a lot of benefits, but there's a lot of stuff to add to this, but it's a really super good first step.
So this is the kind of thing that it could be introduced into schools. If kindergarten, if you feel that if you'd had this from that early age, that it could have really been a great benefit to your life, and that there are loads of steps to progress along. And like
build
what we're
on
doing.
this. Yeah, this isn't the end. This is just kind of like the beginning. Yeah.
So this is like the first step.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Thank you. Winona.
Hello.
So yeah, I kind of myself feel like I'm running out of things to say, actually. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess maybe sort of just building on what Edwin's saying, it does feel like there is a hell of a lot of tension in society right now, and almost like every group of people feels not heard. And it feels like they've got to really fight to feel heard. And
How long?
I'll pause there.
I'm talking to a person right now. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No problem.
4 minutes, 10 or 15. Okay. Yeah. Okay. If I just, so what I heard you say is first that you are also getting this sense that maybe you're running out of things to say. But that what your observations of society and groups of people is that it does seem like there's a lot of polarization and a lot of tension within like many of the different groups and different perspectives, and a lot of them feel like they're not heard.
Yeah. And I think we have this culture that's all about, we think that we can get to the truth, like it's all about advocating the truth. We have to advocate what's right, and but it's like maybe we need to also inverse that, and it's all about listening and not just advocating and receiving, because there's too many people advocating something. Yeah.
So I hear you saying that a lot of groups feel like the most important way to get things right is to advocate for them and to speak out and to get yourself heard. But what you're saying is kind of like through this experience is that it's equally important to stop and listen to the other side in order, and maybe to that people need to invert their perspective on that and take the time.
And even maybe like not just on a personal level, like a cultural inversion, like a whole level of like, yeah, I mean, it would just be great to see people in politics really taking time to listen, and because, I don't know, Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, what would it take for politicians to feel that the other side had something of value to listen to?
So you're wondering what it would take for politicians to, even people in the political realm, to recognize that their opponents might have something of value to share also.
Yeah.
I mean, because I get this image of, them up there on the debate thing and going, look, no, actually tell me more about what you have to say.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that'd be so nice to see, really. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just hope we can get there. I really do. That's all I can say. I'm like I said, I want to be courageous. I hope others can be courageous, and let's try and do it.
I hear you saying that it's going to take some courage, but that you have hope, and that you got to have hope, and we've got to take the actions to help, because it's not going to happen on its own.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Okay, is there enough time?
Yeah, there's enough time for one more.
Okay. Although I won't get to hear the response, but I was wanting to.
I'm going to go a little over. I had the time wrong. We still have about 9 minutes. But...
Okay, nice. I'd like to talk to Carolina.
Yeah.
I think it's really amazing that you took on such a big project for your thesis, and I totally admire that kind of goal when you say, well, I have this set amount of time, I'm going to do something with it. Why not do the most I can do with it and reach for something that's the most impactful? And I just I'm very curious. I think I'll have to email you later because I know at this point you're only going to reflect back to me and not answer the questions so much. But I'm curious about what it took to get to that level of professionalism, even as you're doing your master's, and having gone through graduate school myself. There's a lot of pressures and a lot going on, and just to have and certainly a production like that is, you have a whole team of people that you're working with, I'm sure, and then to get involved with Edwin and really take them down to Los Angeles, that just seems like a really neat experience.
Thank you. Well, you were saying that, sorry, now I'm I have the answers in my mind, but I have to reflect. So you were saying that you were curious to know how did I manage to do this project while I was on my thesis, because, and also you were saying good for me because of taking the time of doing a project of this level or this size during a master's degree, when there's a lot of other things that you have to pay attention to. And you were also wondering about the team and how many people I have to get involved. And you were also saying that the fact that I brought Edwin from San Francisco to LA, it's also another task and another thing that I have to do. And then you're probably going to send me an email because you have some questions.
Yeah, that's it. And I'd also like to just reflect that it's been really interesting to hear perspectives from about the healthcare systems and how that Andy was talking about, and that's so curious that we see polarization as this like fixed thing, but it's actually not. There's a lot more complexity to that. And then I think everybody had something to say about that level of like a need to get safe spaces for people to be able to really explore. And there's something that's so, I'm fairly introverted. And so talking I never really thought that I thought it was overrated, but I'm finding that there's so much that you can figure out by getting the words out of your head and out, and then having somebody like hear you.
you were saying, you were pointing out what Andy was talking about. Polarization is actually a way more complex concept. And you took the example again of, for example, healthcare. And then you were saying, as Lala mentioned, that we need to find ways to make or create spaces, safe spaces to allow people to speak, and that you are actually a person, that an introvert person or shy person, and that you're not so used to talking, but then by participating in this process and also and taking your own example of like start talking to the other side, you realize how important it's actually talk and listen to the other person.
Yeah, yeah. And the listening and getting that validation, taking the time that it is like you were saying too, that it does slow things down, but it's such a valuable part of the exchange that the person, you take the time to hear them say what they think you said.
And yeah, you were also mentioning what I said, that it could slow things down to just try to listen and re-say what the other person said, but it's actually very important, and it's a new way of listening to the other person and trying to take the time to actually reflect on what they say to really understand what they're saying.
And they're definitely, you know, how they say emotions aren't just in your head, like it's in your body, and it's so interesting to the feeling of like Edwin was saying, is that the stress and anxiety can actually decrease when you know somebody's actually heard you.
And you're saying that by having somebody listen to you, it's a good way to actually reduce the anxiety level and the stress level, and it's a good way to start having a conversation with that conflict, I guess.
Yeah, that was I thought it was really I was wondering how people would, from opposite perspectives, would come together. And so it was really interesting to hear that there's like that pre-circle work to allow. So, and that was amazing. I mean, that was really kind of seemed like kind of a piece of the puzzle that was, I was, oh yeah, okay. So
great. And yeah, should I reflect on that too?
Yeah, yeah.
Are we running out of time, or I'm
I think we're just done now. I'm gonna hit the, we have 20 minutes, at least try to, so, but to go back. So do you feel heard? Just be sure.
Yeah, I feel heard.
Okay, okay, great. So we're gonna close the room, head back, and you ready to go? So thanks everyone for this.
Thank
a lot
you
of fun
guys
to be in a group with you all.
Taking the time.
Amazing. Yeah,
great.
so we're
Thank
closing the room. We'll see y'all. Then we'll just do a little debrief in the full room.
It says that all break rooms will close. What do we have to do?
Because
it says,
it'll close in 1 minute, or you can say leave room.
And then I go back to the beginning.
If you leave room, you'll go back right now. Otherwise, it'll throw you back in the big room in 30 seconds.
Okay. So if we have 30 seconds, let me just, oh, she left. Okay. So I was gonna.
Get us some music on when people come back.
Yeah, that would be nice to have some music. One thing is that one group I was in, they had music, and actually YouTube flagged it for copyright. You know, they checked. So you got to make sure if you play music, it's not copyright if you want to post it. So.
Or if you can make up music as people are coming back, we can make some.
We can bring you along.
Hey, hit it, hit it,
hit it, Timothy. Okay, great. So welcome back, everyone. So what we want to do is just hear from maybe 6 or 10 people, just any comments, questions, anything about the film, anything about the empathy circle practice. Take about 30 seconds. You want to just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Okay, Ben?
So I was just going to raise the thing about the movie, was that I felt that there was a slight blind spot regarding the imbalance of power. So on the one side where you've got the right wing, you've got Murdoch, you've got the press, you've got everybody, if you like, engaged with law enforcement and, if you like, the forces of oppression in some ways, all piled up, and they've got the power. Whereas on the other side, there's a lot of people who have really only got sort of like human power, and that's about it. And it was framed in the movie like, oh, well, we're just at each other's throats, and we've just, like we're just angry at each other, when in fact one side is powerful, one side is disempowered. And I don't think that really came across well in the movie.
Okay, do you want to respond, Carolina? Just a 30-second response.
No, I'm just going to say thank you for pointing that out. I try my best to show both sides in their own way, and we use, for example, some clips from the media from both sides. You will represent the right side, Fox News, and then the left side, CBS, for example. And we try to put both and try to pick up a little bit. But yeah, you can definitely feel that way, and it's fine.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Timothy?
Yeah, thank you, Gwen and everybody. A question that we struggled with that was stimulated by the film was, what do you do with the quote, unreachable person? The unreachable person. I'm not even talking about the evil person or the violent, crazy, lunatic person, which we may be labeling on both sides. But like, even though if you're not caught that far, but you're like, I want to reach, and I just can't imagine this person being willing to be part of a dialogue similar to what we saw from the empathy tent, to see some common humanity and values, right? Maybe if we can't start with shared reality, right? Without shared reality of some sort, where do we go? So we struggled with that question, and we just kind of sat with that, and the pain of that question and the longing behind that question for dialogue. So I just wanted to share that came up for us.
Thanks. Anyone else? Yeah, Rita.
Just on Ben's comments, yeah, I'm wondering, instead of like thinking of it as if there's just two sides, it's like I feel like there's many moving parts and contributors, it's like there's Republicans, Democrats, there's Trump and who he is as a person, how people react to him, and then there's like the media and stuff. So it's like, and this kind of empathy process, when it's done like on the streets or in your family or one-on-one or even in small groups, it's just like, it really brings back the personal responsibility to each individual and how we can be empowered to affect each other's connections and how we are with each other in community, whether we're allies or whether we're opponents. I think there's a real power that we all hold as human beings to connect with each other and be curious about our differences.
Thanks, Rita. Pam?
Thank you. Thanks, Edwin. Hi, everybody. So something that came up in our conversation for me was the recognition that something that we don't really acknowledge or talk much about is the trauma. Not just the trauma of what happened last week, but the systemic and intergenerational trauma of how America was first constructed through a lot of oppression and abuse. And I feel like that narrative has to be part of the conversation for reconciliation, not just for the accountability for the people who have suffered, but also to reconcile and get past the shame that we're avoiding for the people whose generational ancestors have participated and whose family members may be participating now in the oppression. So I feel like that's a really important narrative, and it's part of why there is so much emotional reactivity.
Okay, great, thanks. Anyone else? Yeah, Bill?
Well, I just want to thank, I think it would be very hard for Carolina to solve the problem with one film. But what I think that Carolina has done that really is important is that, in one film, you're hearing the other side, and it's starting to see and put human faces to both the sides. And although it doesn't solve everything, I think it's the beginning of possibly a fruitful conversation. And I hope we'll start listening to each other. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Anyone else? Hey, Dave.
Hi. So
I think what's great about the film is just what Bill said. It shows how this is happening at an individual level. You know, and all of us as individuals, we believe that what we think is right, and you know, you can't deny somebody else's reality, and that's part of what the circles are for. But you know, there's also it seems to me that from a political point of view, there's a lot of forces that are pushing the division. Some of them are selfish, you know, like Murdoch. Some of them just have to do with human nature, you know, how the parties are fighting for power. You know, there's all this stuff, social media, all this stuff. But, you know, I think one of Edwin's ideas, you know, and, you know, I'm sort of, as I do all this, I started getting involved recently with this organization in the United States called Braver Angels, which is people of the left and right get together and talk and try to figure out how to work together. Is, you know, there's people out on the ends of both sides who hate the other side, literally. And, you know, you have to decide where you're going to focus. And I feel like, you know, we need to build a movement of people that are, it doesn't matter what party you're in, who want to solve problems, work together to figure out how to approach these problems at the political level, actually, and how to depolarize the political system. Because a lot of individuals, what we see, I think is represented in the film also, are people see themselves as ideological representatives of whatever side they're on. They're not just, you know, citizens, they're representatives of their team, you know, for the sports analogy. And look, I'm as susceptible to that as anybody else, but maybe the team you should decide you want to be on, and we should be creating the team, which is, you know, we're the team for everybody. And
the empathy team.
And we want to figure out how to make things work, you know, and we'll take all comers that want to be productive, constructive helpers are welcome, you know, so that's my 2
Thanks,
cents.
Dave. USA Free Speech.
Yeah, I couldn't find the icon to raise my hand, but I wanted to feed off of what Pam was saying. A lot of people are not talking about is you have to fix the systematic problems that have been going on in regards to especially African Americans for 400 years that people do not want to acknowledge, and that racism that has been instilled in a lot of African American families, and those of us, you know, that have our ancestors, because of my father, he's a Vietnam veteran, and he, you know, still he's stuck in that past. So I deal with that past through him, of the experiences that he went through and his mother went through. So I believe in order for us to all move forward, you have to fix the past before you can fix the future. And a lot of people aren't acknowledging that. And I think another thing that we need to also understand, we did not come into this world as political parties. We came into this world as human beings, and we only have one life. So we should not put our target on each other as, oh, you're Republican or you're Democrat. No, we are all human beings. And, you know, all we want to do is live a happy, peaceful life and carry on our generational values to our children and our grandchildren. So I think that we, you know, need to think of it in that aspect, but you have to fix what's broken in the past to move forward to the future. Because if you move forward to the future and you don't fix what's broken in the past, you're not going to be able to move forward in the future because you haven't fixed what was broken in the past. And that's part of healing.
Mm-hmm. So really address what broken things in the past for try to heal those. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just would like to have if anybody would like to answer this, how was the process, if you haven't experienced this before, how was the process for you? And if you think you can implement something like this with your friends or family members, or if you thought it was just not something that it comes natural in a conversation to just reflect on the other person.
And it's a great process to use with the family. I've used it for family mediation. So we have conflict, you know, family conflict. We have Trump supporters and progressives in my extended family, and we come together and use empathy circles in the family, you know, to dialogue. And we've gone as long as 5 hours in an empathy circle. So it's a great something to really try in families as a sort of a starting point. So any experience with the circle process? You know, how do you want? Yeah, Frank, you want to?
Yeah, I got a lot out of it. I felt there was a real opportunity for me to be listened to and to hear other people's feelings about the Trump debacle and such. I have here in Florida and around a lot of Trumpers, and I feel it's something I have to confront all the time, and because it has really agitated me. I can't run away to some upper middle class heaven somewhere. I'm right in the middle of it here. I mean, and it brings out you know, my inner Robert De Niro, you know, who kind of wants to punch out at the world and punch out at them, but I wound up talking to myself and talking to the TV set or my wife or my dogs, rather than talking to other people about my feelings. And so I do want to get together with others. I invited so many people to join this, and not one showed up. I invited really many friends and associates to come this afternoon, and not one is here. So I have to keep on trying, but I'd like to show this, the film of this, the recording of this to other people, and maybe make some progress starting the group.
Oh, great. Yeah, well, for going forward, we just have like a couple of minutes left. So sort of next steps, if you go to theempathycircle.com, you can see more about the process. There's tools there for using the process. We have regular empathy cafes like this during the week. We have a Friday group circle that's for an orientation to the training. We have a 5-session training. We put together cohorts every month. We have a couple. We have like 20, 22 people in a cohort. You take a 5-session training, and this is all free. It's all, we're really trying to spread this practice. So we're really trying to get everyone sort of involved and just kind of get a snowball going here to spread the empathy circle practice. So I'd really like to invite you to, you know, continue with this, especially Frank, like you're saying, come take the training, you know, get some experience. We can support you in trying to hold empathy circles with your neighbors, for example, you know, and we have a facilitator support group, or how to hold an empathy circle with your family or with your friends or your other relationships. So yeah.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, everybody, thank you for coming and for watching the film. If you like the film, you can always follow us, share. I just posted the Facebook page of the film and also the website. You can subscribe to the website, and you can find out more about this type of events that we're doing. And if you would like to host a screening with your school or your work or your colleagues or friends, and we're more than welcome to share the film with you. And if you want to do this type of thing in your own end, I guess Edwin can always teach you how to do it, and you can always implement it with your friends and family. And thank you so much for participating. I hope you had a good experience. I really enjoyed it a lot myself. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Carolina, and thank you, everyone. If you get some twinkle fingers as a group portrait to end with, so hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
And if you just want to if you want to ask me more about the movie, or if you want to have a conversation, just I'm going to leave my email as well. I'm going to send my email in the chat, and you can always email me, and I will be glad to talk to everybody.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if anybody who wants to be on an email list, if you could put your email into the chat, that would be helpful.
Thanks, Dave. That was my question.
Yeah, I got you two connected. I got your emails.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Love you, Caroline.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
If the facilitators want to stay for the debrief, feel free to.
Yep.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
See you, Norland.
Norland, nice to see you. Good to see you.
How do you get out of here?
You hit the leave button.
Yeah,
The little leave button.
yeah.
I'm
All right, you guys have fun. Go Braver Angels. Bye.
You too.
I'm stuck in empathy world.
You got Zoom bombed by the braver angels, the better angels. That's great.
Was somebody here from there? Because I sent that out,
Yeah, Steve. I think Steve from Better Angels was here.
Good.
I talked to him before. I talked to him yesterday. He was really interested in using the film with their subscribers and their members, and how to bring the empathy circle